Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out this property analysis. My name is Ryan Cushman. I'm a realtor and investor in North Georgia, and my focus is to help you find and analyze great short-term rental investment properties. So let's dive in. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. Before we check out the property in question, if you have any questions or want to book a call with me or are looking for some help in analyzing a deal and need some expert advice, feel free to check out my website, ryancushman.com. I've got some free resources there, including a deal calculator as well as a little buyer's guide, ebook type of thing. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so. You can also book a call with me and let's get you started. So ryancushman.com. All right. The property in question is 47 Muller Lane in Ellijay. This is a 4-bedroom, 2,400 square foot cabin in a great part of Ellijay, and it also happens to be waterfront, which is the reason why this one caught my eye. And so let's get into a couple of the details here. It was built in 2001. It has been on the market for coming up on 2 months, so not super long, but it's been out there for a little while, as have a lot of properties. Properties I've found are sitting for a good chunk of time, including one that we were trying to sell. So the little bit of the history here is that it has been bought and sold a couple of times. It was listed for sale. So some longtime owners listed it for sale for $850. It sold in 2022, April of 2022, about 3 years ago, for $750. And then just a year ago, it was listed for sale by the current owners for $775. And it hasn't gone anywhere. So it's been for sale off and on to some degree since for about a year, and is now being listed for $700, which is a $50,000 bath from where the current owners bought it. So we're starting to see some duress out in the marketplace, folks getting a little bit anxious and needing to get out of their properties for one reason or another. And so that's a little bit the story on this one. This property has a lot going for it. It is a little bit dated in some aspects, but certainly not to a substantial degree. All pretty manageable, I would say, and certainly a fair amount of things could be updated or improved, and it wouldn't take a huge budget to do so. The furnishings are, I would say, a little more classical, classic cabin type of furnishings. And like I've mentioned before, those have their place in the market. I tend to think and believe that the more modern furnishings, decor, and design are the ones that are attracting the most renters. I found that to be true in my own portfolio, and I would recommend making some adjustments to this property on some of the furnishings. So we've got some nice appliances. We have, so this place looks nice. I will say it's just some of the hardware pieces look like they're from 25 years ago. And so those can be inexpensive and not a huge burden to change out some of the fixtures and just elevate the space a little bit more, swap out some of these, 25-year-old light fixtures, ceiling fans for nicer ones that look more modern. And that can do a lot to bring your space into the present time. A lot of good things going for it on the entertainment front. We've got a pool table. We've got not ping pong. We've got foosball. We've got like a poker table, which is cool. And as I mentioned before, just some of the decor could probably afford to get swapped out for something that looks a little nicer and more modern. Get away from the bare aesthetics. We got this very cliche and overly used bare stuff from Hobby Lobby that everyone bought for their cabin, and the bedspreads. I think you're better off swapping these out for something that's just like nice and modern looking, and it wouldn't require in many regards wholesale swapping the furniture, but just really leaning into the decor improvements and the art improvements, and I think that can go a long way. We've got this cool wall over here. This TV was probably big 20 years ago, but it isn't anymore, and so I would probably recommend moving this sign up to the top and then putting like a giant 75 or 85 inch TV here, and leaning into a movie room type of play for this space. And some of this furniture is pretty standard in the market, where we've got this kind of knotty wooden bed frames, and those are great. They're not super modern, but you can live with that, and you can work with that by updating a lot of the other things. I think this is the second time this bare image is in a different room, or one similar to it, so not exactly the same. Anyway, I digress. This space, I would be thinking that perhaps we would want to increase the sleeping capacity by adding a couple of bunk beds. These beds could probably be sold for a nice price, and then we could replace it with, have a designer or a builder come in and build some of those really great dual bunk beds with the staircases in them and everything that are kind of built into the room. That would be something I would try to figure out how to budget for. But in any event, you can buy a couple of bunk beds and improve the sleeping capacity for the shared kids room. And it also has this little bar space, mini fridge, so you could lean into a kids space that has some nice amenities there. And let's see. All right, so deck space is pretty good. We've got some hanging swinging chairs here. We've got a hot tub already, which we wouldn't have to account for. And the thing that drew me to reviewing this property was the fact that it's got some water frontage. It's in seemingly a little bit rough shape, so that would be something that I would recommend leaning into and budgeting for some kind of improvement. This is super weak right here, a little bit run down looking and not landscaped really at all with any pavers or hardscaping or anything like that. So, and just some, rundown looking outdoor furniture. So I'd get rid of all this and plan to really lean in and improve this space somehow. So that's something that I would highly recommend we budgeted for to my buyers. And then we've got this great water frontage, which is very appealing in this market. All right, so that is the rundown of the home. We don't get a super clear look at all how it's laid out as far as bedrooms and common space in there, but looks like we have enough to work with where we have a reasonable path forward and understanding of what the property is and what its opportunities are. So let's switch over to rabu.com, see what the estimate looks like as far as profitability. We get I've done some filtering already here, and the default for what the rental projection looks like if we are living in the law of averages is about $46K, which would not be a great win or a great deal when you factor in, and I have some of this factored in already, waterfront, hot tub. I think another thing that could be good, and there's certainly room to put it somewhere, would be like one of those barrel saunas. very uncommon in the marketplace. If I click this, it actually gives me an estimate of 0 because there are not any 4-bedroom properties that are waterfront and hot tub. And so the estimate is 0. Just there's not enough data. So being that you would be the only one in this area that would have all of those things, water frontage, hot tub, and barrel sauna, I think it could go a long way. So, and those are not overly expensive. So we could absolutely figure out how to get that factored into the deal. Okay, so if we are operating in the 75th percentile with those factors, we're looking at about 73K. All right. If we take a look at price labs, we get pretty similar range where it gives us an average of 47K on the low end, 27. You'd have to be really sucking it up to be performing that badly. And then on the high end, 71. I think there is upward potential for this property to easily do in the 70s and 80s. There's a handful of properties that are doing that in the vicinity that are waterfront. This one actually doesn't make any sense to me. I think there's a glitch in the data here. It says it's doing 108, but it doesn't. It looks like a brand new listing and has no reviews, so I don't really know what to make of that. But so that's something you got to be careful. But these other properties that are doing 80, 75, 83, 82, these are good comps and certainly easy to see yourself performing in a similar caliber or similar range as these properties. So this property is I would say a similar caliber. Looks like it might be a little bit newer build and is going with a little bit more modern aesthetic, which is what I would recommend for this new property. But it's also waterfront. If we scroll through, yeah, so it's got some water frontage here, and I think this goes a long way with guests. And I would say that this is kind of a half measure of, maybe making a space that's really appealing to guests. I guess it has another little space down here, a nice elevated deck with a fire pit. So that's cool. Yeah, so I think there's some opportunity to, and this is in the Coosawattee River Club as well. I think there's some opportunity to, stand out in the market where, you don't have a lot of waterfront properties that offer these additional amenities like a barrel sauna. So let's take a look at the math here. This property is going for $700K. We could budget somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $35K in improvements, upgrades, and design to the property. I think it'll turn probably more like 6 times a month. And we've got a couple of scenarios here where we are doing just a little bit better, like a standard, a good, better, best scenario where we are just doing a couple days better per month than the previous scenario. So in scenario 1, we're doing about 70K, scenario 2, 78K, and scenario 3, 87K. And in those scenarios, we are cash flowing $800 a month, $1,500 a month, and $2,200 a month. So not bad. And I think these are very reasonable and probable outcomes, any of these, where especially if we made some design improvements, added a couple of amenities that are uncommon in the marketplace, very reasonable scenario 2 and scenario 3 outcomes. So if this property looks interesting to you, or any other property in the North Georgia mountain market looks interesting to you, and you want to take a deeper dive, download my free short-term rental calculator. Go to some of these data websites and see what they spit out. Tweak the numbers, tweak the amenities, and if you have any questions, book a call with me. I'd be happy to spitball and walk through it with you and see what the potential is. I'd love to help you out. Thank you so much for checking out this video and watching the whole way through. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, disagreements, please post it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And stay tuned for more deal reviews coming your way for properties that are for sale today in North Georgia. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.